Hello everybody, Mannix here. It is time for a tabletop gun review. Feel free to subscribe, hit that little bell notification if you do not want to miss weekly knife, gun, gear, flashlight, lighter videos. Support me on Patreon, link in the description if you wish. Thank you so much for watching. Let's get right into this. This is going to be on the Glock 42 subcompact 380 ACP or 380 auto, however you want to say that, pistol. Not loaded. Nothing in the chamber there as well. This is everything that will come with the gun if you bought it or got it somewhere and they did not tamper with the internals. So there's our first magazine. It comes with a second magazine. I have it loaded with snap caps, which if you are not familiar, they're meant to be fired in the gun for practice. Comes with the speed loader as well, and then this little barrel cleaning tool. Convenient little hard case. I like how all the Glocks come with these. And the little finger grooves even included on the handle. However, the newer Glocks do not have the finger grooves anymore, just FYI. And this gun does not either, even though it is a Gen 3. So this is the latest gen you can get of the 42 currently as I am filming this, early mid-2023. Retails at $469.99, but you can get these for just above $400 depending on where you look. Has a capacity of 6 rounds per magazine. So 6 plus 1 is our total capacity here. Unloaded with an empty magazine, it weighs 12.17 ounces. With an empty magazine, 13.76 ounces. And then with a loaded magazine, sorry, viewfinder, it weighs about 15.87 ounces. With a full capacity. Overall length of 5.94 inches. Its height including the magazine. 4.13 inches. I'm not going to go nuts with the specs here. There's a lot more to look at, but those are our general specifications for this gun. So during this video, I'm going to be directly comparing this to the Glock 43, which you may be familiar with. It's almost the exact same gun, except it is a 9mm rather than a 380 auto or 380 ACP. That gun is a little bit more expensive. I want to say across the board, you can get those for maybe like 30 or 40 bucks more. However, I've seen them in places where they cost the same as the 42. But generally speaking, the 43 is just a little bit more expensive than the 42, but the price is pretty close depending on where you go. The 43 also has the same capacity. It also will hold 6 rounds of 9mm as opposed to the 6 rounds of the 380 that the 42 carries. 43 is just slightly more expensive than this, but also sometimes the same price depending on where you go, from what I've seen anyway. So the 43 just being slightly more expensive than the 42, having the same capacity with 9mm, which is a more powerful round than the 380. It's not even arguable. It is a more powerful round ballistically. And speaking of price, it kind of evens out, if not becomes even cheaper, because currently 9mm is considerably more cheap than the 380. Sometimes if I find cheap target ammo of 9mm, you can get a box of 50 for maybe 16, 17 bucks of FMJ, while the 380 could be 25, 26 bucks of 50 rounds of FMJ. This may be a little bit more expensive in the long run if you count how much ammo you are buying. Things may change, it's all subject to change, but generally speaking, this is about the same price, if not more expensive than the 43. If you're counting the ammo and how often you actually use it, etc. So price is not really that much different, I'm going to say. So that's kind of the tricky thing. This gun's only slightly smaller. It's about 5 ounces lighter than the 43. A little bit cheaper, but the ammo is more expensive. You could argue the ammo is worse, but we're going to talk about that. And the capacity of the ammo is the same as the 43. That being said, the 380 has less recoil than the 9, meaning the follow-up shots are going to be easier to place. And with a subcompact pistol just like this, that's kind of what you want. You want as little recoil as possible. Because if you have a big old chunky, Glock 17 or something that fires a 9mm, which is a double stack mag, can be considerably heavier. Yeah, pretty easy to fire 9 out of that, but try firing 9 out of something this small. It starts getting considerably more snappy. Follow-up shots are going to be more difficult. It is noticeable in comparison to the 380. 9 is a bit snappier out of a gun that's subcompact of this size. And again, another advantage this gun has, it is technically a little bit lighter. It's technically a little bit smaller than the 43. So the 43 is a great carry pistol. You're not planning on getting in somewhere too dangerous or anything, but you want a good, 6 rounds and maybe a couple extra mags on you of 9mm. You don't want the gun to be too heavy, not to be too obtrusive, too obnoxious, etc. Yeah, the 43 is great for that. But if you want it even smaller, even lighter, even less noticeable, and then on top of that, easier to place follow-up shots, this is the gun for you. It's a step beneath the 43 in size, in weight, and in recoil. So size, weight, recoil, easily the 42 technically wins over the 43. Now, which one's better overall? Overall, I'm going to say the 43 is just a little bit more useful, but this one still has its advantages if you absolutely want the smallest possible gun you can get that Glock makes. Currently, as far as I know, this is the smallest Glock in the world that's on the market, the Gen 3 42. It is not a double stack magazine. As you can see, it is slim for a Glock. Anyway, Glocks just have to be fat guns, but this is slim for a Glock. My pinky obviously does not have anything to grip onto, but that's okay. From what I've tested, it is very reliable, just like a lot of people will tell you about all Glocks. They're extremely, extremely reliable guns, man. Very, very great pistols for reliability and consistency. But out of the box, I was having a lot of issues with it, and I was kind of surprised. Fresh out of the box, put some FMJs through there, went to the range with it, and it was having a lot of issues, having a lot of failures to extract. The slide would get caught up sometimes. Sometimes it would slide forward and not feed in around. I was having all kinds of feeding and extracting issues with it. But after I just broke it in a little bit longer and I'd oiled it up, I had absolutely no issues with it whatsoever. So out of the box, these can be a little dry. I would just keep in mind, make sure these are oiled, make sure you fire them, make sure you're breaking them in. Even though it's a Glock, it's still a gun. A gun is a gun. You got to break them in. You got to oil them. You got to make sure they're ready to go. Let's load this guy with snap cap, safe direction, fire. It is not ambidextrous. Slide release is only on the left side, not the right. We only have a magazine release on the left, although I don't know of any gun that has magazine releases on both sides, but whatever, just keep that in mind. No finger grooves on here like the Gen 4 Glocks have, so it's similar to the Gen 5 Glock in that sense. There is no tactical rail up here, so unfortunately you cannot add anything additional to it. That would have been kind of a nice touch, but oh well. Carries like a dream. I like how slim it is. It's very comfortable. I have no issues with that whatsoever. Recoil's nice and light. For such a small, lightweight gun, that's what you want. Again, that's one of the reasons I picked the 380. I carry this with a very, very simple nylon holster with one little belt clip on it, although so far I have not carried this with a belt. I just clip it directly to my pants, sometimes on the outside of it, which is slightly more comfortable than the inside, but if it's cold and I'm wearing a jacket, I keep it on the outside, but if it is warm and I am not wearing a jacket, I keep it on the inside so my shirt can cover it up. Covers it up just fine, no issues with that. So it's a perfect, it's right in the sweet spot of being a subcompact pistol, but not being too tiny that you have trouble actually gripping onto it and managing its recoil, whatever it is. It's right in the sweet spot of being the perfect size gun, I think, for a subcompact pistol. Some pistols get even smaller than this guy, of course, but as far as Glocks are concerned, this is the smallest one on the market, if I am not mistaken. So after breaking it in, what's the verdict? Well, it's extremely reliable. I think the 380 auto is a good choice. It is arguable. Some people are going to say the 43 is better. Some people are going to say the 9mm is full on better than the 380. It's arguable. Some people do not like the 380 for being too weak and not good enough. And yeah, I see valid points on both sides of the argument. I'm not saying the 380 is better than the 9. I prefer the 9 more than the 380 for a lot of reasons. But that being said, for a small subcompact pistol, I think 380 is also a great choice. Follow-up shots are easier. It's just going to be easier to control. The gun overall is going to be lighter. And if you're going with a subcompact pistol or possibly a backup pistol, maybe an ankle pistol, I have yet to carry this on the ankle, but I do want to do that at some point. This is a great option for that. It keeps it as light and as small as possible. Follow-up shots are easier. Just easier to control, less weighing you down, especially if you got a whole bunch of other gear on you, of course. Is it a good primary pistol? I'm going to say it's just good enough, but when we're talking firearms and defense, that also could mean it's just not good enough. Maybe, depending on the situation, depending on who you're firing at in whatever defensive situation came up. 380 autos ballistically, depending on the round, sometimes they're just good enough and sometimes they just do not do the job. And then some people argue the 9mm is not good enough. So if that's the case, good luck with the 380, In case you're not familiar with the Glock's safety mechanism, it's exactly the same just as all the other Glocks, just as you'd probably expect. The safety mechanism is embedded within the trigger itself. There is no separate manual safety on this. This is all you got. It's just this little mechanism within the trigger. Not familiar with how it works, this has to be depressed first in order for the trigger to fire. Otherwise, if you try to pull the trigger back without pushing in this separate mechanism in the middle, as you can see right here, it will not be able to fire. So unless this is pushed first, then you can also pull the trigger, and then... So essentially, if you had this chambered, I don't have it loaded right now, but it's kind of debated. I see it as carrying in condition 0. If you're not familiar with that, that just means safety off, round chambered. So you pull the trigger, it's going to fire. There's no separate mechanisms or anything you have to disengage before firing. Again, that is debated. Some people say it's not really condition 0. I still kind of say it is. I mean, yeah, we have a separate piece in there, but we don't have a separate safety mechanism. You pull the trigger, it's going to go bang. Even with the safety mechanism, I'm still not entirely comfortable doing that. I just don't carry condition 0. I haven't done it yet. I'm not saying don't do it. It certainly has its advantages. I know some people who absolutely swear by carrying condition 0 only. They think it's ridiculous to carry in any other configuration, to each their own. Although I've never had any issues with these, and these are extremely reliable, and I haven't heard of anyone having any issues with these mechanisms. To me, it still falls under the category of if something slips underneath there and engages the mechanism itself, which probably isn't that hard to do, it's still going to go off. If someone can argue against that, please let me know. But although it is safer than not having it there at all, I don't know. I'm like, if something got caught up in this portion, yeah, it's not going to go off. But if something got down here and snagged against it, it still can pull the trigger. That being said, personally, I don't really care for having separate safety mechanisms on guns anyway. I don't want to fiddle around and accidentally pull the trigger when the safety mechanism is on and forget about that and then forget to disengage it. To each their own, though. I know some people carry that way, though. They carry with safety on with the round chambered. And if that's your muscle memory, then more power to you. There's a lot of advantages to that as well. I'm not saying any of these configurations are wrong. I'm just saying with the Glocks, you are limited. Some guns have a mechanism in here as well as a separate mechanism for safety. With Glocks, this is all you got. It's embedded in the trigger. Take it or leave it. I just carry all of my pistols currently, if they're not revolvers anyway, unchambered. Safety off, no round in the chamber. That is condition 3. So to me, it doesn't really mean anything. I just like to rack the slide anyway before I fire in the first place. So for me, this is absolutely perfect. I'd rather have that mechanism on there than not. I'll just leave it at that. So despite its quirks right out of the package, I have not had a single issue with this since. I like the trigger pull on this. It's just right in the sweet spot. It doesn't have a whole lot of travel. It's not like a hair trigger either. I really, really like it. I like the little grooves we have right here. No problems racking the slide back. It's a little bit boxy and cube-like. Fixed sights, just like all standard Glocks have. It's a polymer gun, in case you're not familiar, other than the slide. Of course, slide is metal. Barrel's obviously metal, but this is all polymer right here. The magazines are polymer. So it keeps weight down. And again, even though it's a little bit bigger than a lot of other 380 autos out there, we have just a little bit more to grip onto and a little bit more control. And that's going to be up to you. Do you want something really, really tiny and subcompact? Or do you want to sacrifice a little bit of lightweightness just to have that extra grip and reliability? And if I'm going to go 9mm, I prefer just to go all out, have more ammo, have a bigger, heavier gun anyway. I don't see this as a primary pistol, although you certainly could get it for that. If you're going to just get a primary pistol, it's your only gun you carry, the only one, maybe I would consider just stepping up to the 43. But as a backup pistol in your collection, this is perfect. The 380 Auto 42 Glock Gen 3 is great. I love this gun. Really, really nice pistol, just kind of throw on if I'm going out real quick and I don't want to have something bogging me down too much. Just good enough as a primary carry pistol if you have no other options. Quite possibly the best 380 auto subcompact pistol on the market.